Hello and welcome to the webinar about the Master Program in Electrical Power Engineering, presented by Program Director Patrik Hilber and student Rebeca. You are welcome to write your questions during the webinar, and Patrik and Rebeca will try to answer them as many as possible after the presentation. Please go ahead and start.
Thank you. Yeah, so welcome, and my name is Patrik Hilber, and
I am Rebeca Brenes.
And welcome to this webinar. And the main focus here, I would say, is to look into the admission process, and also for you to get a feel if you maybe should pay the application fee or not. But it's also to give information about the program and the opportunities in the program and such. But first, a little bit about us. So my name is Patrik Hilber, and I'm a docent. That's kind of an associate professor. And of course, yeah, I'm the program director of the program that we're speaking about today. And beside that, I'm also doing research with a research group on reliability and asset management for power systems. I also have a startup company, HL Grid Solutions, and we are working with asset management for electric power utilities. And on my spare time, I like to outdoor life a lot, and I'm doing quite a lot of endurance and resistance training. And a little bit about you?
Yes, so my name is Rebeca. I come from Costa Rica. In Costa Rica, I studied electrical engineering, and now I'm doing the master program. I'm in the second year. I just finished all the courses, and I am about to start my thesis. And I am also a student ambassador for this program.
Yes. And location. We are sitting here right now at in the KTH main campus. So we are in the president's office. The president's office, but you know, the office building. Then we have the electrical engineering with labs and some lecture rooms and computer rooms and such. We spend lots of time here. My office is precisely here. And then we have like the KTH library, and we have the public transport fairly close by.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like around 10 minutes to Central Station, so it's really close from the center. And then also, if you're living in campus, there is student accommodation around this area. So if you are living there, you are really, really close from where you will have your lectures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really nice. And also what you see here is forest.
Yes.
And that's very close to the campus, where it's really next door to the campus area. And I think that's kind of indicative of being in Sweden and studying in Sweden. We can also, of course, mention that over here in the top, we have the KTH Kista. That's also part of the school which we are from. And over there, they are doing much of the computer science stuff, programming and those things. But also within the city, we have other universities that are looking to different areas. So it's actually quite a huge university city in Stockholm. Yes. Okay. So the School of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science. There are several different areas in this school. So that's one part of KTH. And yeah, of course, electric power engineering is one of the areas, but we also have, like the fusion space engineering and system control and robotics. And I don't know if you want to touch upon any particular parts here also.
Yeah, I mean, in some lectures, for example, I have classmates that are not only from the electric power engineering, but they are from other like master programs. And I think that is really interesting, especially if you're doing a group project, because then you get people from different backgrounds, and then it becomes much more rich in knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's also important to note that this is one part of KTH itself. Yeah. So there are mechanical engineering and architectural design and those things. So there are many different areas that you also can collaborate with and work with or read courses from. So if you want to add some mechanical engineering to your courses, that's definitely possible. Yes. So why electric power engineering then? I guess most of you who are listening to this kind of have a good clue about why. But it's one of KTH's most popular programs, and I think there are some reasons for it. One being that it's an international program. I think it's of the students in the program, it's 1/3 Swedish students around that size, and then 2/3 and from different areas of the globe. I think that's kind of indicative also of the studies here, that it's a fairly international context and focus. If you study here, you're able to work in many other places in the world. And of course, it's also an important area because if we don't do our work, cities might look like this. We had this storm a few days ago, and we still have some households here in Sweden without power, and it's fairly cold outside, so it's a fairly important topic to work with. Yes. But more specific about the program then. So the timeline kind of starts here in the bottom. It doesn't necessarily have to be really that way, but it usually does. So we have some basic electric power engineering courses, and that's 6 courses, and you need to read 4 of them, and they are 6 credits each. So that translates to that you need to pick 4 of these 6. And already at that stage, then you have your opportunity to start to design your own kind of track through the program. So if it's something that you really don't want to read, yeah, you can actually avoid it. But yeah, of course, I tend to see it more like, yeah, you can choose your specific track through it. And then we have some complementary courses. We have one course which is more of a trying to keep the program together, get the students to meet within the program and discuss common parts of the electric power engineering work that we see, looking into, for example, environmental aspects and such, but of course also ethics and such. It's also one part here which is the science, the research science. So that's a small part which is kind of mandatory. Then we have the 22.5 credits, which is a minimum, so you're allowed to read more from that group. But that's the real specialization, like reading maybe towards power systems or control or whatever your area of interest might be. And then we have a set of completely free courses. It's almost 30 credits. Many students choose to pick more courses, maybe from the basic power engineering courses, and also, of course, from the advanced electric power engineering courses. But it's also recommended to maybe 1 or 2 language courses, maybe in English or in Swedish, or both. But it's also, of course, a great opportunity to fine-tune your program. So if you're interested in, for example, drones and power systems that you see there is a huge potential there, then you can read 28 credits of robotics to complement the courses that you have here in electric power engineering, making a specific branch.
Yeah, and that's something that I often get asked, like via email. People ask me, is this program right for me? And they describe like, oh, I like this and I like this. And I often say yes, because this program has that possibility that, okay, if you have this base that you have to follow, but then you have the freedom to choose your path and choose which subjects like fit this area of interest that you have. So even if some subjects that you really want to learn are not in the program, you can use you can take them in the completely free courses. So it's really great because then you manage to build exactly how you want it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we really tried this balance to really kind of guarantee that it's an electric power engineer that can get their master's degree, but still have this great freedom. And I think we have managed a fairly good mix there, but it's quite a lot of freedom. Then the last thing mentioned here is the project course. So that's kind of a master thesis, but done in group. So it's 9 credits, It says HB, that's ECT as credits. Basically doing a kind of master thesis work together with other students, typically with researchers here at KTH, and also with a company, connected to a company with some question connected. So that's a great opportunity to also get a feel, might this be the area that I want to go further with my master thesis in, or is it some other area? And then not mentioned in this slide is, of course, the 30 credits of the thesis, which is the last part of the master that you hopefully are doing at KTH. Maybe not the last thing that you're doing at KTH, but the last part of the master. Yes. So subject areas. So these are kind of more example areas that you can look in or study. But I would still say that these are maybe the main areas. I will not go through them in very detail, but we have electrical drives in machines and power electronics, electrotechnical design, electric power systems, information and control systems. That's kind of the control of the electric power system, and a little bit more towards programming. But I also see that we have kind of the management and project management track, where you might read some economics and more towards the management and project management, and maybe then a little bit broader of the electric power engineering courses to be able to work with these little bit kind of more management questions. And which area are you following?
I would say the electric power systems is the one that I took most courses of, and I went also a lot on electricity markets. But then I also took elective courses more like about energy planning. And then I also took, for example, the programming courses of the control systems as well. So it's a little bit my own, but I would say electric power systems.
That's the main track, but then as you see, then it branches out. So it's not any fixed track there. And that's one of the great things with the program, I would say.
Yes.
So a little bit of a boring document maybe, but very important one. So many questions that you might have is answered by the program syllabus. Basically, the program should follow this syllabus. So any questions are, most questions are answered by the syllabus. And it should be available through this webinar also as a handout. So it should be possible to download it and have a look at it. So it's a document specifying what the program is, basically. So it answers quite a lot of questions. Have you looked much into it?
Yes, I mean, when I was going to apply, I was reading it to get all my questions answered.
Oh, that's great. That's how it
I
should
recommend
work.
you to read it.
Then about admission requirements and fees. So, of course, you need to agree to follow the program. You don't have to have finished it right now, but you should finish it during spring. Or there are some exceptions also with some universities that we have collaboration with a 4-year bachelor, but in general, a bachelor degree is required. Then, of course, there's English proficiency requirements. The 2 different main tests are there. And then we have program-specific requirements that we'll look into very soon. And yeah, then about the tuition fees and application fees. So there is this application fee for non-European members of 900 Swedish kronor, about $100. And this webinar is a little bit trying to answer, is it worth paying those 900 Swedish kronor or not? And then, of course, also the tuition fee. So the more specific program requirements then. So you need 60 credits in electrical engineering, and that's 3-phase electrical circuits and or machines. So 60 credits might sound like a lot, but also most bachelor thesis work will be included in this. So I think most students interested in this area actually meet this requirement. But it's also, of course, then important to show that you have the 3-phase and such in your studies. Then mathematics, 30 credits, and it should be calculus, numerical methods, algebra, probability theory, and basic control theory. Then there are those attached things also to the application. So a letter of motivation, we will speak more about that later. Two questions in English, work experience, if you have any, CV, and a summary sheet. And things that can go a little bit wrong, or that I've seen that goes a bit wrong sometimes in the summary sheet, for example, is the probability and statistics and the numerical analysis. Many times those courses or those topics has been read in a course, but it's not stated as a specific course. So then it's good if you try to be very clear that, yeah, I read probability analysis and I did it in this course, or numerical analysis, because that makes the assessment of you, yeah, more correct, basically, and that's of course a good thing.
Yeah, I remember in my case, in my university, we don't have like a subject called numerical analysis, but we have it into like 3 other courses. Like so, I wrote in the summary sheet like about it.
Yeah, and that might be also something to have in the motivation letter to early on state that I've read this.
Yeah.
Basically, to be doubly sure that it's seen. And what if I lack one course? It might work anyway, I would say, but the motivation letter becomes very important. So, for example, if you lack the probability theory, yeah, then you need to show that I'm aware of this, but I have a plan on how to catch up on it, and to basically show that you are aware of it and that you are working on it. Then you might get through anyway. But the motivation letter becomes very important, and also, of course, other parts like the work experience and such becomes important. And it might be that you can show that, yeah, I haven't studied any probability theory, like the example I have, but I've worked with it for 2 years. Yeah, then that's a good motivation, and then you're really reliable for the studies. So we have 3 main assessment areas, and the first one is the grades, and the grades on the required courses are kind of important, but of course also the average grades and also the language skills. So if you have good language skills, that's a plus for the grades and the grade assessment. Then the university, the ranking is mainly based on the QS and the Times Higher Education ranking. There are some universities that have a collaboration with KTH also. Those are ranked a little bit higher in the university ranking that we do here at KTH then. Then the motivation. So again, we touch upon the work and also the relevant work experience. I see this as 2 different parts, because having work experience is good, having relevant work experience is even better. So that's why there are 2 different bullets. And then the scientific experience. Have you collaborated on, for example, a conference paper? That's great. That's something that should be highlighted, because that's really good stuff. Written motivation is important. We'll speak more about the written motivation soon. And then references is, of course, seen as the part of the motivation of the in the assessment. And then examples. And I think this was a slide that you really liked, because this is a new slide, and was it good?
I mean, when I was applying to KTH, I would have loved to see this slide, because it's so informative and it really gives you an idea like what are your chances to get in. So in my case, for example, city is like ranked 500 something, and my scores were not that great, because people in my program usually don't get higher than 80. So yeah, I was really worried about this, but then I wrote a motivation letter, like that I specified many things and that I really wanted to get in, and with, of course, facts. Then I had relevant work experience, and the motivation, the references were also good, I guess. So then I see that why I got in, but maybe you can explain them?
Yeah, we go through the different examples here.
Yes.
And of course, there are examples, and I would say that they're really realistic examples because we have cases of people being admitted or of course also not admitted, depending on the example here. But it's not like a little bit more complicated than this, but I think it really gives a good picture if you will be admitted or not. So it gives you a good indication if you should pay the application fee or not.
Yeah.
So let's start with number one then. So a rank 100 university with grades around 80%. Rank 100, that's kind of where KTH is situated. So yeah, then you would be admitted. But if you forgot to do the summary sheet and one course is missing, sorry. So that kind of highlights it's important to follow the requirements of the admission. And next example then, rank 500 university and grades 90%. Yeah, most likely yes. If you're rank 500 university and the grades are 75%, yeah, then it's a little bit more maybe. If there's nothing more, even done the application correctly, it's quite likely a no. But if you have some work experience from a relevant field and you have published a paper, yeah, then definitely yes instead. So that really turns the decision. 2-year work experience, not from a relevant field, but good motivation letter and good references. Yeah, you will most likely be accepted then. And trying to make it a little bit more general. So if you have 3 of the following, like one research paper or a work experience, relevant work experience, good motivation, good references. If you meet 3 of them, yeah, then you will be admitted also. So number 4 then, a rank 1000 university. So the grades are 90%. That's probably not enough in that case. Might sound a little bit harsh, but that's somewhere we need to draw the line then. And then if you have some other experience, like a research paper or the work experience, relevant work experience, good motivation, good references and such, yeah, then most likely. And even if you have a lower grade, like the 80%, yeah, then if you have more of the other stuff, of the good stuff, yeah, most likely you will be admitted. So this is trying to give you kind of the picture, will I be admitted or not? Is it worth paying the application fee or not? It's not the complete picture as I started to say, but yeah, I think it gives a fairly good picture.
Yes, I think this is really useful. And it really highlights the importance of like attaching all these things to your application, like really the references. I often get asked like, oh, do I really need to add the references? And yeah, I mean, all these things are very important.
And it also kind of gives a hint on what's important to mention and like work on in your motivation letter. And that's the next slide. Yes. It should be short and precise. Don't write a book. And highlight the things that would make you a strong candidate to get through with flying colors. It might be that your grades aren't very high, but you were best in class in some relevant course, or maybe your university, as you mentioned, rarely have anyone above 85% or within your area that you're studying. So grades of 70% might be really good in this case. So that are really important things to bring up in your motivation letter. Of course, such statements as like no one get more than 85%. If you can back it up with some, maybe a teacher that writes such a statement, or that many universities also have some type of statistics that they deliver. If you can information like that to it, that's of course much stronger than just stating like no one got more than 85% and I have got 70%, that's good. so the more proof you have, the better. And did you do anything extra that would make you go through the program? Maybe you build something, or whatever that you think could be adding to this. But the main thing here is to try to keep it concise.
What would you say it's the recommended length of the motivation letter?
I would say that keeping it at a fairly like large font, like 12 points or whatever, not write more than 1 page. If you can do it in even less, I think that's a good thing, because it's a challenge to write compact also. And it's also a little bit about getting the attention of the one who is assessing. Try to make it concise. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, and maybe like I've heard that if you write like, oh, I have been always passionate about this, and maybe that's not as relevant as actually stating your relevant experiences and so on.
Yeah, I would say so that maybe you might lose the interest of the reader by not going into the kind of more hard facts, so to say. So it might be good to focus more on those kind of more concrete things. So yeah, that's a good advice.
Yes. So like from the start, why just you? What makes you special?
Yeah. What about the grades, for example? Yeah. Okay. So after the program, then where can you end up? And I started here with listening. KTH, Chalmers, Uppsala University, and 3 Swedish universities, and also then 1 random other university, ETH in Switzerland, just because we are quite often mixed up, KTH and ETH. Wonder why. But yeah, as a continuation of your master, many aim at the PhD. So this is a number of universities that we have seen people continuing at. There are, of course, many other universities that you can end up doing a PhD in. But you also might end up in any of these larger companies like ABB, Siemens, Bombardier. That's quite common, I would say. But also, like more locally here in Sweden, we have some larger utilities, the Vattenfall, Ellevio, and E.ON. They're fairly huge companies, utilities with huge networks. Also, the national grid is one area, the Svenska kraftnät in Swedish. But also smaller utilities are really interested in your competence. And just in Sweden, we have 170, 180 utilities in total. So they're spread out all over the country. So if you would like to go to some really exotic place, that's an opportunity. The thing that you would need, and I would say, is doing like you did, catching up on the Swedish. You don't need to have it perfect, but you need to show this utility that have a willingness to learn Swedish and have some capability to do it and show an interest to do it. So you don't need to speak perfect Swedish, but yeah, having learned some Swedish is a good thing. Yeah, then to continue on the list, companies with focus on the environment is, of course, one obvious employer, and many end up at a consultancy company. And yeah, the last one, mental bodies, where you also can end up working. So there are different areas, and as I started the presentation, it's also a very international environment. So this is a little bit of kind of the Swedish perspective, but there are so many opportunities internationally also. So it's good. Yeah, many different options there.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So a little bit over to you.
Yes. So now that we have talked about the program itself, now I'm guessing that you're also curious about how it is to study at KTH. And well, let's start with how is the structure of the courses. And I actually cannot answer that directly because each course has its specific shape. So sometimes there is only lectures, sometimes it's seminars and lectures, or sometimes laboratories. It really depends on the course that you are taking. And this is also reflected in the type of examination. So, for example, sometimes you have just a final exam at the very end, or sometimes you have group projects, or a combination of projects and exams, or oral examinations. It really depends on the course that you take. In general, a semester at KTH has 2 periods, like 1 and 2. And in a semester, you have to have 30 credits, and it's usually recommended to have 15 in the first period and 15 in the second period. So most of the courses that you take will be either like just one period long, so they will be like a little more high paced, or they will be 2 periods and they're a little bit slower, so to say. So the credits are split through both of the periods. And then there is also a concept at KTH that was new for me, which is the re-examination, which means that if for some reason you are not satisfied with your score, maybe you don't pass it at all, or you were not able to write it, you get a second chance at the end of each semester. So it's around 2.
Yeah, I think it should be at least 2 kind of retries per year, so it's a fairly
Yeah.
good chance.
Yes, but this is great. I mean, of course, I advise you, I encourage everyone to pass the exams in the first try and not leave it for later and so on. But it is good to know that there is this. In my university, it was pretty much pass or fail, and then if you fail, you have to restart the whole course. Here, you can just write the exam again, and it's very useful. And you are more calm in the exams because you know if something goes wrong, there's up. But yeah, I would say better to pass it in the first try. And now this is a picture about my student life in Sweden. And what I wanted to show you here, it's the answer of many of the questions that I often get. Is Sweden too cold? Yes, okay, in the winter it's cold, but it's beautiful. And then something that people maybe don't know, Sweden is also warm in the summer. So you see this ice cream, like I had just bought it and it was already melting. Like this last summer we had, it was crazy warm. It was warmer than Costa Rica, like most of the time.
But it was a bit of an extreme summer also, but
Yeah.
during summer it's really warm and people swim a lot outside. And
I mean, I think summer in Sweden is really beautiful because everyone like really wants to do activities outside to enjoy the sun. And I mean, Sweden is just really beautiful. This sunset, this picture of a sunset, I took it here in Stockholm. And I think it's so beautiful, even better than the sunsets I've seen in Costa Rica, which is crazy.
That's some competition.
Yes. Then there's a picture of my classmates from the master program. This was during our Christmas event.
Yeah, might notice a program director with a Santa Claus hat. What's it called?
Yes. And then when my family came to visit me in Sweden, it was really great. It was really nice to show them KTH campus around. And then during the summer, I did an internship at the company because, you can look for a summer job if you're interested to do something. We have like around 2.5 months free. So some people go back to their home, or other people just stay traveling. I decided to work, and before that I had learned Swedish, so my work was in Swedish, and I think this was so great to really become part of the Swedish society. So I made a lot of Swedish friends that even after my internship I'm still in contact with them.
That's a really great way, and there's a challenge, and you learn quite a lot of Swedish, I would say. But learning a bit of Swedish and kind of developing your network and then getting a kind of this summer job opportunity, that's a really great thing to do.
I think learning Swedish is really good, even if you don't plan to stay in Sweden, because if you learn Swedish, it will allow you to make Swedish friends faster. Because everyone speaks English, there's no problem with that. But if you show the willingness of learn Swedish, that makes them really happy. And then if you want to stay in Sweden, that is even better reason to really learn Swedish, because it will be a great advantage for if you want a summer job, and then later maybe you can get you can write your thesis in a company and have some Swedish interaction with your co-workers. It would be really, really useful.
Yeah, but it might be also a challenge to learn Swedish because, as you mentioned, most Swedes speak quite good English. So it's like, yeah, people switching to English just to be nice, but then, oh, but I want to learn.
Yeah, you have to push yourself if you want to learn Swedish. All right, yes, next slide. Okay, something that I also get asked a lot. Everyone has the perception that Sweden is expensive, and I'm not gonna lie, Sweden is like probably more expensive than the average, but at the same time, there's a lot of benefits as students. So you get student discounts on like pretty much everywhere. The public transport, you get the card with a very significant reduction on it. And then like the cost of living itself, it really depends up to you. What decisions do you take? If you are eating out every day, of course, this is going to be crazy expensive. But if you decide to cook at home, then that might be a more economical way, and you can like take your lunch to KTH and heat it because there's microwaves like everywhere in the campus. And then there's also the restaurants at KTH that they are like significantly cheaper than outside, and it's so good food here. So that's also really good. And then of course other, like it depends on what activities you do, how much money you will spend. So I think it is expensive indeed, but if you manage to organize yourself, it will be something manageable. And then yeah, there's opportunities to work, like the permit that we have allows us to work. But of course, I think the priority when you study should be your studies and not working. So for example, a great idea is working as student ambassador. That's a good way if you want to work, or working, for example, in the summer when you don't have your lectures, then
the program director agrees. That's a good way of handling it.
Yes. Okay, should we go to the next slide? Then a little bit more about the student ambassadors and the social media. I think this is something really unique from KTH. Like this Ask KTH platform is so useful because you can see like the people from each specific program. So if you have, maybe you're not interested in this program, but you're interested in taking an elective course that is from another program, then you can write to them and ask them, what do you think about this course and so on. And then that can help you have an idea of how to build your electric power engineering program. And then the social media on KTH, there is the blogs, the international student blog. And actually one of the bloggers from the international student blog is from our program. And she writes awesome things like about Sweden, KTH, and the admission process. Her name is Induja. We have seen her in the KTH website, but there's a lot of information, and then all the like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all these platforms where you can both ask questions or read more about KTH.
Yeah, so there are good opportunity to reach out and get kind of a bit of different perspective than like asking the program director, then you get some type of answer, but asking a student, you get a different angle on it.
It becomes also more like a little bit informal, because then you can ask for tips about like living in Sweden, or just personal opinion, like how do we like Sweden, and so on. So you can also even search someone from your country if there is, and ask them like, oh, is there a big difference from moving from, I don't know, India to Sweden? I'm sure like Drew, he's also ambassador for this program. Like he can answer that and yeah, it's really great. Is there more slides? Oh yeah.
Yes. Key dates.
Very important.
So we're almost there now on the first bullet point here. Application deadline, 15th of January. Paid application fee, so it's 1st of February, so there's some time still to decide. And then all supporting documentation is 1st of February also. So yeah, the you might have got some ideas from listening to this. You have some ideas. Maybe you want to make some adjustments then. Proof of English proficiency, same date, 1st of February. And then KTH scholarship, very soon. KTH in India scholarship also very soon, basically tomorrow. Swedish Institute scholarship for professionals. It seems to be a bit vague there, between 4th and 14th of February. Probably do it before 4th, then I would recommend. Then we have the notification of selection results from the university admission. That should be done by 4th of April. So yeah, that's kind of the important dates that I have here.
Yeah, and one important thing, like notification of results, 4th of April. Do not expect something in between. Like, I remember for me, this waiting time was so long in my mind. I was expecting always, and I think it's important to know that this is the date. Like before that, it's not like by asking, oh, what's the result? It's just slowing down everyone. Like wait until that day. Of course, if there's something wrong with your application, you will probably hear, or like if there's something missing or whatever the special situation. But the normal is 4th of April.
Yes. So, some time for questions.
Yes. Thank you very much for the lovely presentation. We have some questions from students watching. The first question is, my summary sheet is not reflected in my admissions.se account. Is this okay, or how should it be?
Yeah, and this is a kind of technical question, which I'm not really the right person to answer. But I think this should be okay, because I think the summary sheet goes directly to KTH and is connected through that. So the KTH admission should know about this. But yeah, I think it's okay.
Also, university admission in the worst case.
Yeah. Better extra safe than taking my probably for an answer. But it's probably okay. But it's good to maybe double check.
Okay, next question. Hello, I have applied for my second master in electrical engineering. Is it possible to accept my past credits, or I have to pass them again?
So if your past credits are kind of used for your admission to KTH, then it's doubtful if you can use them again at KTH. But if you are, so to say, applying on your bachelor, then it's fine to at least account the number of these towards your master at KTH. So there is not any 100% clear answer to this question. It depends on each case then. What is important to notice is, of course, that if you join the program, then most likely if you have read the master, then the number of courses, you might have read the content of maybe some or a high extent of the basic courses, for example, here. Yeah, then you shouldn't read these courses again. Then it will be a discussion with basically me about getting an exception to read more advanced courses, so not starting again with the basics. So there is definitely some flexibility there. Maybe it's interesting to add also, like on the flexibility note, that's something I would say is one of the strengths, and also studying, I would say, actually in Sweden in general, there's a kind of flatness of the organization, that it's quite close between students and teachers. I have had very few students stating that they have seen any more like interaction between students on a kind of a almost casual level. So yeah, that's really outside of the question, but I think it's kind of relevant information to have. Do you agree with this?
Yes, absolutely. I've heard people from other countries, other universities, that they get really surprised here because they like even the professors, they just see them like go in and out, or sometimes maybe they don't even see them at all. And here we have the chance to like go and ask, and they like have discussions in the breaks, and even if you need something else like after, you can go to their office. And this is a really, really, I would say, strength of KTH.
Next question. Are there academic services like tutoring available at KTH?
Do you know?
I don't know officially, so don't take my word, but I do know that like some students like offer this service not officially. So if you need like extra help, maybe someone that is really good in this subject, they put like some papers in some like whiteboards, like, oh, I can help you with this subject if you have some trouble. But
Otherwise, I think it's maybe more coming back to actually what we spoke about just before, that there is this closeness about between students. So if there is an area which you find difficult, then it might be possible to have for a dialogue, for example, with a PhD student in that particular topic. And yeah, teachers and teaching assistants are usually very, very helpful in the topic. So maybe that's kind of the answer to the question also, that that function is kind of filled in that more, in the flat organization, basically.
Yeah, I think it's right. Like you don't really feel the need of these kind of things because already the education system is so good. So you know you can reach the TA, the teaching assistants, for example, for these kind of questions, and they will always gladly help you with it.
Thank you. Next question, or we have two quite similar questions, so I will start with the first. I am an applicant from India, and while filling up the application form, I saw 30 credits, ECTS credits for maths are mandatory. But in India, we don't have 30 credits for maths, but all the topics mentioned are covered in the maths courses we had. Will this create a problem during the application evaluation?
So I'm not 100% sure that I understood the question really, but it's like, is the case then that there are not really 30 credits math? Was that the right interpretation?
Yes, we have. Yes, and there's another similar questions that the graduation from the Indian universities, that the mathematics is taught in 4 semesters and all the topics are covered, but the credit count is not 30.
Yeah, so it doesn't really reach 30 then, is my interpretation. So if it's significantly less, then I would say it's a bit of a problem. But if it covers the areas that were mentioned also in this presentation, I would still kind of highlight this and also kind of indicate that maybe the math is more towards the applied one. So you might have read more and more math within the, for example, circuits theory or something like that. So just if you have too few credits, show that you have you have read the probability analysis and the numerical analysis, and that you have had enough experience of the math anyway. And also, if it's a kind of 4-year bachelor, I think there should be plenty of room to show that much have been read. So I hope that's an answer to the question.
Thank you, Patrik. Next question. Can the letter of recommendation be considered as experience letter, as my manager have mentioned what I did in the letter of recommendation, as it is in detail?
I think that's a good kind of dual purpose of a letter of recommendation. So having a statement about the work and such could definitely work as a reference letter.
I think something that it's important to explain the person that is writing the recommendation letter is to explain them, like which university you're applying, which program. Like I remember when I spoke with the persons that were writing it, like I specified all these things so they had in mind when they were writing, like why would I be good for KTH for this program, and then like because they could take out all this experience that was relevant. So I think it's important also that they have like clear things.
Yeah, that's also now you're on the topic of a strong recommendation letter, because that's, yeah, sometimes, yeah, again, we see recommendations that are really impressive in size, but what might be more impressive might actually be a fairly short recommendation letter stating that this student have explained to me that she is very interested in reading at KTH and electric power engineering, and I think this is really the right choice for the student because of a few reasons. That would be like, and that might be like 5 lines, but might be very powerful for the assessment, because then it's very clear, and here's some dedicated work towards getting into the specific program. So yeah, that's of course giving recommendations for the ones that are writing your recommendation letters. This is meta.
Next question. Are KTH master students preferred over other candidates to do their PhD in KTH, if there's any positions available?
The short answer is no, but then in practice, yes. Because if you learn together with a teacher, and as we mentioned that there is this close collaboration, the teacher then of course knows your capabilities and strong sides and such. So then each PhD position has to be announced officially, and usually we have around 100 applicants, but one of the persons that have been studying, working on the topic and such, and shown a kind of a track record already, I mean, that's a definite plus. So yeah, in the end, yes, there is some, what to call it, yeah, plus side of doing your master and then trying to continue with your PhD.
So it's important to, if you want to do a PhD and you know like which area, like maybe try to read the courses related to it and try to have some more contact with those professors. I would say it's important.
Yeah, but then of course there's some stochastic process about the number of announcements and in which area the PhD are announced and such. So yeah, there's no guarantee that there will be a position open, because it's really, most of the research is based on basically the funding that the teachers obtain, and then they will be able to announce a position. So that works a bit different in different countries, actually. In some cases, it's more like the student has a topic which is proposed to a supervisor, and they try to find a supervisor to the topic. Here's more like a researcher identify a topic, and gets funding for it, and then have basically a job recruitment for the position. So that's a bit different. The plus side is, of course, that the PhD student here in Sweden has a fairly decent salary, or very decent, I would say.
Thank you. Here's a follow-up question from a question we had just a few minutes ago. Just a clarification: if the detailed letter recommendation cannot compensate for experience letter, or can it?
Yeah, to some extent, I think it can compensate, because a really good recommendation letter is really taken into account. So that can be really as strong as like a work experience in the assessment. So that's, yeah. The answer is yes. Then it can replace it, but both is of course better.
Thank you. Here is the next question. If my university rankings are not found on the mentioned website, does that mean I will be rejected?
No, it doesn't mean that you will be rejected. To get a hint about your opportunities, I would then look at the slide that I showed with the rank 1000 university, because that will be fairly similar situation to that one. So no one is rejected on that basis. And usually there's some type of ranking that can be found. So that can be stated, for example, then again in the motivation letter. So yeah, but definitely not. You will not be rejected even if there's no ranking.
Here is a similar questions from a student from India who has graduated from a university that is not listed on the QS ranking. However, I'm having 3 years experience of working in hydropower generation sector. Does that big up my chances?
Yeah, definitely. That's basically, you're hitting two things there, that you have experience from the right area, also have an extensive work experience. So that's, yeah, two really good things.
So then the motivation letter, it's really key here again.
Next question is about Swedish language. Are there any Swedish language classes for international students offered by KTH? And the next question in line is, how important is it to learn Swedish if you want to find a job?
Yeah, so there are courses, and it's really recommended to follow them. Which course did you start with?
I didn't take at KTH, because the thing is that at KTH the Swedish courses start the second semester at KTH, and I wanted to start from like the first semester. So as soon as I arrived to Sweden, I took different Swedish courses, but I have a lot of friends that start KTH courses in the second semester. But if you want to do like me, like start from the beginning, there is plenty of places where you can learn Swedish, like Universitetet, for example. And there's even some like Swedish summer school in Uppsala that starts in July. So like there's many options if you really want to learn Swedish. And I think, can I answer that? I think if you want to get a job in Sweden, it is a big plus if you can Swedish. Like I would say there's actually many jobs that require Swedish. Of course, there are some that don't require Swedish, but even if they don't require, it's so good for like a good work environment. It makes things so much easier. And even I think I said it before, like if you show that you have the interest of language, then it makes people happy about it, and then they become more willing to learn about you. So it's a gain.
Yeah, I would say that it's a really good situation to get a job, because there's a huge need of this area of expertise, and but still many companies have the requirement that you should be able to speak Swedish. But since the need for your competence is so huge, you can really get away with having, as indicated, shown your interest and ability to learn. So you don't need to speak flawless Swedish, or you just need to show that I've learned and I'm willing to learn. And if you employ me in 2 years' time or something, yeah, we will have a perfectly good conversation in Swedish, because they are willing to invest such time, I would say. But having no Swedish at all, yeah, then it reduces the number of employers quite drastically to the really huge manufacturing companies. I would say there are a few others also, but so without learning any Swedish, yeah, the chances are still really existing. And if you kind of develop your network yeah, definitely possible.
I can comment also. I have other classmates that they like work during the summer, and they worked in English. So I mean, like there's not really it's not a huge problem, but it's recommended.
Yes.
Thank you. We have one last question from a student that is wondering, can I enter the ECTS for prerequisites in summary sheet in my local credits?
If I remember correctly, it's better to fit them to ECTS credits, and so to do that translation. It would then reduce the confusion. And basically, I mean, it's 30 ECTS credits per term or 60 per normal year. So if you have, take your nominal number of credits per year and divide it by 60, or you can do the math. Yes. Okay.
Yes, thank you. That was the last question for now, and time is up. But thank you very much, Patrik and Rebeca, for the presentation, and thank you all for taking part of the webinar. Make sure to follow KTH on the social media and to take the opportunity to contact Rebeca if you have further questions about student life in the program. And don't forget the deadline to apply and pay the application fee is tomorrow.
And scholarship as well.
And scholarship.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, and good luck.